Hey, welcome back to the Urban Monk. I am excited about the year kind of starting to close out. This is the time for us all to just kind of settle in and really do an accounting of where we've been, where we want to go, and get a good sense of what our goals would want to be for next year. And this theme keeps coming up. As I've been making the prosperity movie, as we've been interviewing the captains of industry and really talking about how to reshape the way we live by how we spend. I've been running a lot of this type of content through well.org and sometimes through the Urban Monk. And it's amazing to me how many people in our universe, well-intentioned people, are still tripped up on money, are worried. I mean, they say they don't care about money, but all they do is sweat their bills. And there's so many things around money that are charged and creating duress for them. So my guest today, McCarthy, has done real well with money. And her first successful business was in college. I bet you she had a successful one in high school. I'll find out soon. And she's just been working these 7 spiritual steps to financial abundance in her own life, proving it out time and time again. And so I said, great, come over here and help my people, help our audience really step into abundance and understand the flow of money a little better. So May, welcome to the Urban Monk.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
I really enjoy the vibe of your message because it's principle-based, and the best part is you're holding yourself to these principles and proving them out over and over again. My audience has heard me kind of moan about some of these self-help gurus who just make stuff up and sell it online, and it's never time-tested. They're not actually wealthy themselves, but they're making a decent living trying to sell how to make wealth off of people. And so there's a lot of that kind of riff-raffy stuff. We swam to the top to someone who's actually done the work repeatedly. How many companies have you successfully started and exited at this point?
Well, I'm on my 7th one right now, but my last successful exit was in 2012 with my 6th company.
Wow. And so this one now, what are you doing?
Well, I have a consulting practice. I really don't need to work anymore, but I love to help young startup companies to succeed. So I do a lot of work with companies who I invest with, companies that are coming out of research organizations, PhDs that really don't know anything about business, but they have fabulous breakthroughs to help society and our world to live a better quality of life with their medical breakthroughs, with their genome breakthroughs, and life sciences breakthroughs. So I spend a lot of time advising and helping them as well to do well and launch their businesses.
So you're sitting on the other side of this kind of prosperity arc, and now you're able to kind of bring other things and bring them to prosperity. How did you get started? I always like to know where people kind of got into this.
Well, my first business actually was started when I was 6 years old. I was raised on the beach in Hawaii as the last of 10 children. And you have to develop some sales and negotiating skills to navigate through a family that size. And so I had learned from my parents a couple of really, really important foundational rules. Number one was that as you give, you will receive. I noticed that my dad, as a surgeon, gave out a lot of free care. He would tell people that they were extremely valuable, and that even though they didn't have money for him to be paid, that someday they were going to think of something of value that they could exchange with him to afford their health care. So at the end of the year, he would always count up the free food and the fish and clothing and all sorts of things that we received from people as a fair exchange of value. And he'd shake his head and just be so grateful because he knew that he received so much more in return. So that was the first rule. The second rule was that if we wanted to have something, we had to work for it. And the best way to do work would be to see where there was a problem and you could come up with a solution. And when I was 6 years old, I saw a problem, and that was that there were people out on my beach in front of our house that didn't have water and didn't have anything cool to drink or any refreshments. We had no facilities on our private beach. So I got together with my mom and I said, I want to solve that problem. And so we created these things called ice cups. We got these little plastic coated cups, and we mixed those uh, jugs of juice that were syrupy with water, and froze these cups. And she taught me a lot about planning pricing and shrinkage, because my brothers would eat all my profits and all sorts of really wonderful business principles. And then I grew several more throughout my grade school and college, and managed, by the time that I was ready for starting a real company as an adult, I had been pretty well prepared with some foundational rules.
That's great. So both your parents, I mean, your father was obviously in medicine. Mom sounds like she had some business background. So you had a little bit of at-home preparation and some people that were able to kind of teach you principle-based things, which is very fortunate.
Yeah. My mom didn't have any business training. She was actually a nurse, but then, of course, when she had 10 kids, she had to be a mom. But she volunteered a lot. She was the head of the YWCA on the board. She did a lot of donating, a lot of giving, to start a flow of receiving. And so she had to understand budgeting. And she certainly had to understand budgeting to take care of a family our size.
No kidding.
So yeah, she did pass on the idea that you need to have more money coming in than you have going out in order to be sustainable.
Yep, which is the opposite of consumer psychology here in America, which is, if you want it, just get it and charge it. It's fine.
Yeah, that's very unhealthy.
Yep, yep. So what are these 7 spiritual steps that you kind of came up with and have been implementing in your life ever since?
Well, let me start with first saying that why it's called spiritual. Spiritual just to me means that there's an intelligence that's unseen. We can't touch it. And it shows up sometimes as subconscious messaging, and sometimes it shows up as intuition. And I'm not the only person that says that intuition is a valuable success tool. We have a neighbor here whose name is Bill Gates. You might know him. He says that often you have to rely on intuition. And Steve Jobs, another really successful person, said that often you actually have to have courage to rely on your heart and intuition. And one of the most influential women that I can think of in my lifetime is Oprah Winfrey. And she said that she has listened to that still small voice of intuition her whole life. And the only times that she's made mistakes is when she didn't listen. And I would agree with her on that. But I think in our society, we honor this rational mind so much that we forget what Albert Einstein called the gift, which is the intuitive mind. So simply because you can't see it, that's why I call it spiritual. However, there's a source for it, an inner wisdom, a intelligence. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what you want to call it. I gave it a endearing name called the Chief Spiritual Officer. But you can partner with that source. And what you do is essentially have a meeting every single morning for 25 to 30 minutes to go over and revisit your goals. So you spend that time every morning. You can be in your pajamas with your cup of coffee if you'd like, and spend that time together revisiting your goals. The first step of the 7 steps is to read something for 5 minutes that's uplifting, something that puts you into a receptive mood, something that tells yourself and your subconscious that what the kinds of good things that have happened for other people, whether it's health or money or relationships, can happen for you as well. The second thing that you do, the second step, is to write out a gratitude letter to this source, this CSO, and say, thank you so much for all these things that I have. And thank you for all these things that I want to achieve. But here's the key. You want to word the things that you want to achieve with gratitude as though you already have it. This is the real key point, because what we want to do is enable our subconscious and our intuition to show up to help us. And if we don't word the goals correctly, then there's no help to be had. For instance, we're coming up to the end of the year, and undoubtedly there's going to be somebody that says, I want to lose 10 pounds. right? After the holidays, my goal is I want to lose 10 pounds. Well, think about that goal for a second. The goal is to be wanting to lose. Haven't you already reached that goal? Aren't you already wanting to lose? So, a better way to word that goal is to state the goal with gratitude as though it's already achieved. For instance, you could say, I'm so grateful that I am physically fit, trim, toned, energetic, and a healthy body that is pain free and easily able to go on hikes and walks with my family and friends, and we have a great time. What that will do is enable your intuition and your subconscious to point out possibilities for you to take steps to make those statements true. The third step is to read what you wrote out loud with emotion. What any school teacher will tell you is that that will anchor it more fully within you so that you can recall that information. The other thing it will do is tell your brain to filter the billions of pieces of data that are coming at you and illuminate those things that are important and in line with your goals. And then finally, the end of your meeting, pick one of your goals, one, maybe two, and use a technique that professional athletes, professional musicians, and even business people use. And that is that we close our eyes and we imagine for 5 minutes, we imagine seeing ourselves in the completed goal. When you do that, you're really anchoring and vibrating at that level of the achieved goal, and you'll be able to attract it into your life sooner. So that's the morning meeting.
So you have this morning meeting every morning, Saturdays and Sundays as well?
Every single day, no matter where I am. I travel about, usually during my full-blown businesses, I travel about 150 to 200,000 miles a year. With this book tour and consulting and speaking, I travel about 140,000 miles a year. But I was just in St. Louis, and I had to wake up at 5 in the morning, which is 3 in the morning Seattle time, for a speaking and teaching event. And the very first thing I do is my CSO meeting.
So you wouldn't be putting 30 minutes a day, every day, year after year into something that didn't work, because obviously that's insane. At what point in your trajectory did you stop to say, whoa, hold on a second, I think this is actually doing something. Maybe I should keep it up. Like instant results, a year of blind faith, like how long does it go?
Well, what ends up happening is that things like fear and doubt and advice from other people, those kinds of things can get in the way and essentially prevent you from hearing those intuitive and subconscious messages. When you're filled with a negative emotion of any kind, for instance, try and remember the last time that you might have been upset about something. Could anybody have a conversation with you? Most people would say no. If they're angry or worried or upset about something, they can't hear another person talk. They're not present enough. Well, the same is true in this practice. And there have been some times when, 3 Fortune 20 companies sue our company at the same time, or, crises happen, or when I was diagnosed with cancer. I mean, all sorts of things can show up that can create turbulence so that you can't hear that still small voice. And but you still do the practice, you still stay focused on what you want, because what will happen is you'll see evidence and proof that you are on the right path to achieve what you want. And throughout the day is when the steps 5 and 6 happen, and that's when you want to expect and watch for leads. You want to expect and watch for those messages, and you'll start to notice whatever you're expecting. One of the greatest pieces of brain research that has been done says that when you have positive expectations, you're lighting up that front part of your brain. And what that's been shown to do is enable us to focus and see more possibilities more clearly. So go throughout your day and expect to see something that is going to give you some guidance on your path to achieve your goals. And then at the end of the day is when step 7 happens. And step 7 is essentially a giving forth practice. This is where we decide to take anything that's within us that's not serving us, like those negative emotions, like fears and doubts, and we remove them and put them over here on the side. And when we do that, what we're doing is creating room within ourselves to receive the good things that we want. You have to create room to receive your good.
One of the challenges in the modern world is that the walls are always caving in. You know, there's never enough time. Everyone's going crazy. There's just too many commitments, too much stuff going on. So what's your advice to my audience who just doesn't even know where to find that 30 minutes? Like, they feel like they're so time poor that, you know, that 30 minutes would be luxurious. They'd probably sleep in a little longer, right? And so how do you get out of the mentality of that kind of deprivation to be able to pay things forward and what you call, you know, putting yourself on your calendar?
Well, the very, very first thing I would say is you have to decide what's important to you. You know, I mean, if you want a healthy body, don't you decide to eat healthier instead of just driving through the fast food car drive-through, right? So you have to decide, are you worth it? Are you important enough to yourself to achieve the goals that you want? I can tell you that as you do this practice, it gets easier and easier over time. It's just like when you learn to read or ride a bike or drive a car or type. You know, I mean, I can type now on this crazy looking keyboard. I can type almost as fast as I can talk. But there was a time where I had to put in a lot of effort and repetition in order to understand how to do that. The same thing will happen with this practice. I have hundreds and hundreds of people that will tell me that the first few days, you know, that alarm would go off and it'd be kind of a struggle. But about the fourth or fifth day, they're waking up before the alarm and it sets the tone for their day. So somehow they find even more than 30 minutes throughout the day that's extra that they didn't have before they started this practice.
How do you distinguish what the clues are as they're coming in to say, well, okay, hold on a second. That's one of God's breadcrumbs. Something good just happened. And, you know, how do you learn to look for those?
Right. And everybody has felt intuition. What we often do is recognize we felt it or thought about it after we did nothing. Okay, and we see, oh my gosh, if I would have done that, I felt this gut instinct to do that. And had I done that, I would have had this great success, or I would have avoided this terrible mistake. I mean, everyone could say that they had that before. So probably a great way to explain the answer to your question is just to give you an illustration. In 1994, I had been writing down every day, I'm so grateful that I'm healthy and physically fit and trim, and every cell in my body is filled with healed and perfect light. All right, so every single day. And I'm out at a business appointment, and I get this idea, this sort of flash, this idea and picture of my sister's face in my mind's eye. And many people will say, yeah, I've had a thought fly into my head out of the blue. And so I knew, having practiced this for a while, that meant I needed to contact my sister. And I happened to be close to her office. So I stopped by, and she was so happy to see me because she had a computer problem that I could help fix for free. So I'm sitting there at her computer, fixing her problem, and she notices this very, very tiny, little tiny dot on the outside of my right leg. And she asked me what it was. I told her it was a freckle because, you know, I was raised in Hawaii and I'm fair and I have a lot of freckles. Plus, I remember I've had that spot forever. And so she said she didn't feel that it was a freckle and asked that I see her dermatologist to have it removed or have it at least looked at. And I was just about to dismiss her fear and say, don't worry about it. It hasn't grown. I've had it forever. And my gut hurt. Now, that's another way that the CSO speaks to me. It's through a gut feeling. We have intelligence throughout our body. And that was a lead, or what I would call a lead. So I just did as she said. I called the dermatologist, went in. The dermatologist told me, May, it's too small. It's nothing to worry about. You can go home. And having had a father that was a surgeon, we were all taught that doctors knew more than us,
Mm-hmm.
and that we were supposed to take their advice. So I was just about to say thank you very much, and my gut hurt again. So I said, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but you have to cut that off. He barely got one stitch in, barely one stitch, because it was so small. I came back a week later to a diagnosis of malignant melanoma Clark's level 3.
Wow.
The CSO, that source of intuition, saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
I have countless stories in my book about people having thoughts and they act on them and it turns out miraculously, or gut instincts, or they'll hear something from somebody else that they just know it resonates with them. They know that's the step to take. The interesting part is that for people that are control freaks and overachievers, like I can sometimes be guilty of, our rational mind, our rational mind is going to try and talk us out of it. It's going to try and tell us, don't worry about it. You don't need to do anything. And what you have to do is figuratively stomp your foot and say, no, CSO, I need another lead. Give me another lead and you'll get one. What you're not allowed to do anymore is do nothing.
Got it. So there are a lot of people who live and breathe the intuitive spiritual side as well out there, right? Who are very good at the gut check and can follow that pretty well. Yet they have not bought and sold and started 6 successful startups, and they probably have to go to work today. So
Yeah.
let's talk about hard work and how that interfaces with success, and how to take these principles and layer them into a mentality that gets you to get to those goals and actually be successful and see these kind of tangible results in the real world.
Yeah, well, the first thing that they have to do is figure out what it is that they want. And in fact, that's the hardest thing. And depending upon the level of spirituality, what I find is that as people increase in spirituality, their goals, their specific goals, get very vague. Very, very, very vague. And they sort of drift. So what I ask people to do essentially is combine what's worked in Goal Attainment 101 for business with gratitude and this idea of God or spirituality or the source of your intuition. And so you have to be specific. If you want a great job where you're using your skills and talents in remarkable and fulfilling and satisfying ways and making a minimum of $100,000 a year, then you need to say thank you for that in advance. You have to be specific. If you're not, you're just going to be wanting. That's the problem, is that people are not using the right words and they're not being specific enough. So, as an example, I had a woman who was an accounting manager. She goes to work every day. She said that she wanted to be appreciated, so she was going to look for another job. And here she had a sea of cubes outside of her office that were all of her staff, and she just did not feel appreciated. So she started writing down every day, I am so grateful that I have the perfect job where I use my skills and talents in remarkable ways, where I uplift my company and support my staff, and we are able to do great service for our customers, our coworkers, our suppliers and vendors in our world. And I make a minimum of $100,000 a year. Okay, so she's writing this down every day, and I feel appreciated and valued. Well, within a couple of weeks, I also asked her to do something else to jumpstart her good. And I described that in my book as well. And I asked her to call up one person, call or email or text or talk to one person a day and tell them how much she appreciates them. So she did that. A few weeks later, she comes out of her office to go to a meeting, and coming down the hallway is a vice president of the company. He drops to his knees and starts flailing his arms in homage, saying to her, I'm so grateful. I am so grateful to you and your staff. You saved us thousands and thousands of dollars by catching an error. Thank you. She felt appreciated, and she didn't even have to change jobs.
So perspective means a lot, and language. So let's get into the semantics of this a little bit, because there are some subtle distinctions. You've mentioned it a couple times right now. You've laid out a couple examples, but the wanting, or the kind of, the conditional language versus the, saying it like you want it, the saying it like it is, right? It's even hard to speak about it without putting in the conditionals, right? So
Yeah.
are there hard and fast rules? How does one write out something like this so that it is clear to the universe?
Yeah, ask yourself a number of questions. Number one, if I actually achieved my goal for finances or health or using my skills and talents, what would my life be like? What would I be doing? Who would I be with? How would I feel? Right? So ask yourself, what would happen after you've achieved that? So instead of saying something like, I want to be spiritually creative and prosperous.
Vague.
What does that mean?
Vague.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? Be specific. Maybe you say, I'm so grateful that my artwork is hanging for sale in a minimum of 15 locations, and that it's on note cards and t-shirts available for sale, and I make a minimum or more of X number of dollars each month. And people contact me on a regular basis to tell me that by seeing my artwork, I've inspired them to create their own. I'm so grateful. So describe it as though it's already done, and what your life is like and how you feel. And write that down every single day for every single major area of your life: your health, your finances, your use of your skills and talents, your relationships. If you want great relationships, describe what your life is like. When you go to that family reunion that used to be a pain, describe that you have a harmonious and wonderful time with your family and friends, and everyone is operating in respect and harmony, and you feel refreshed and vitalized.
Yeah. Big difference. What about spousal support? I'm hearing in my kind of the buzz of my backdrop of my audience's collective psyche, it's like, great, I'm going to sit here and do all this stuff in the morning, and then he's going to make fun of me or she's going to poke at me. How do you enroll a spouse or a significant other to kind of be on page with you, or at least get the hell out of the way so that you can do this work?
It's so funny that you asked that question because one of the women that took my workshop and had said that she didn't have any support from her husband. She's a pharmacist by trade. And she had no support from her husband at all in this practice. And so she had to, that's why you get out of your bed and go to a different place in your home to hold your meetings. You're trying to tell your brain that you're serious about achieving these goals. And so you get out of bed, and if your husband wants to stay in bed, let him stay in bed. So you do the practice and you keep up with it on your own. And you start to notice proof and results. Well, interestingly enough, she ended up being guided and directed to help refugees. And now, within less than a year, she is giving jobs to refugee women, and their products are being promoted by the Gates Foundation and in the Chihuly Art Museum and the Seattle Art Museum. And she's really making a social impact all over the place. And her husband has now decided, wow, this works. Let me read that book.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, the proof's in the pudding.
Be an example.
Yeah, and so there's also this other piece where, there's a lot of self-help guilt out there, where it's like, well, I got to get up and do my 10 sun salutations, or do my qigong, my tai chi, my this, my that. I got to stand on my head. I got all these other practices that I got to do. So now how am I going to prioritize and or triage another little bit of this in? So how does someone with an existing practice start to make room for their meeting, and also kind of prioritize this in there? I'm sure you get asked this.
Yeah, this has to be first. This has to be first.
Why?
First thing in the morning. Because it's setting the tone for your day so that you can notice possibilities. That's not to say that you can't have other spiritual practices, but this has to be first because you're that important. you're good. You deserve and ought to have the good that you desire. And so you have to sort of use this routine to prime your brain for success. You have to get your rational mind and subconscious on board with this so that throughout the day you can notice possibilities to achieve it. If you start getting diverted with other matters of the world, then you are not essentially making that the most important thing and at the forefront of your thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, that email reply to a customer, or your your child going through a crisis at school, or those things will take priority. And as you put your attention on them, they start to grow. And you see more evidence of that happening rather than possibilities of your good happening.
Oh, I mean, if you're waking up in the morning and the first thing you're doing is checking email or checking your phone, you are lost. I mean, that is the world telling you what to do with your time versus you having any agency whatsoever, right?
What I ask people to do is do the practice as written for 30 days. What's going to happen after you're in this habitual pattern? And the reason I say it takes 25 to 30 minutes, you will find that it's so much fun to do that there'll be some days you want to spend longer. Don't do it. Because if you're not consistent, consistency is the most important part of this practice. Absolute most important part. Repetition reaps rewards. And this has been proven scientifically as well. We come to this stage in our life with these beliefs and behaviors that can be tied to neural pathways. And the strong beliefs and behaviors, like that belief I had about doctors always being right, that was a very strong belief I had that had been trained into me for, years and years. And that belief was tied to a neural pathway that was so strong, it almost looked like a groove in my brain, right? What the good news about that is we can create a new belief simply by using repetition. And this practice creates the repetition that is necessary for you to be able to identify with and believe that achieving those goals are possible. The rest of the spiritual practices, and I use them all. I mean, I use meditation and I use different kinds of movement practices, which I love. But I do this one first thing in the morning because achieving the life that I want to live is that important to me.
So you've done this for yourself. Maybe you're a unicorn. So what about the people downstream? How many people have you trained in this and the success stories that have come that have substantiated the fact that this isn't just you being, kind of real special?
Yeah, thousands and thousands. Yes, I've been traveling around the world teaching this to audiences that are as large as 5,000 at a time, some that are really intimate where we have, 25. This is nothing new. We all know this. What I like to tell people is I'm helping you remember to remember what you already know. But it's packaged in such a way that it really is combining tried and true goal attainment strategies that we use in business and in athletics and many other successful industries, combined with this idea of gratitude and the spiritual component, which you can call God, you can call source of intuition, you can call divine intelligence, but combining all of them in a very efficient daily practice is what seems to resonate with a lot of people. It's easy to be consistent with because there are so many examples of how to apply it. Yeah, thousands. I get emails and phone calls and Facebook posts all the time.
When I asked the dozens of people in this upcoming movie we have what their definition of prosperity is, I've gotten very interesting feedback because it's very much inclusive of things beyond financial. And so, and this is something that we're really working to redefine as we are having this conversation on a global scale. What is your definition of prosperity?
My definition of prosperity is very similar to my definition of wealth, and that is to be whole and complete. lacking nothing in all areas of your life. And that would include your finances, your health, your sense of freedom, your relationships, your use of skills and talents in remarkable ways, or what I would call self-expression, and your recreation and fun, as well as your spiritual connection. That's prosperity.
So if somebody has a life right now where they're just kind of sucking it up and working hard, exchanging some of their youth, some of their recreation time, maybe some of their family time for this thing called money, because later on there'll be some sort of offset where they can maybe spend that money on time with their family or whatever. What would you say to that balance, and how would you advise that person to maybe, walk in step with a broader definition of prosperity now?
Well, the first thing I would ask them is, would they be willing to be able to do what they're doing that they love in less time and make more money? And most of the time, the answer I hear is yes. And I said, great. Well, let's write down what that looks like. And it comes up usually as something like, I am so grateful that I use my skills and talents in remarkable and fulfilling and satisfying ways that I really enjoy and I know are of value to the company that I work with, and that I appreciate and feel appreciated by all my coworkers, my customers, my suppliers and vendors in my company. And I make a minimum or more of X number of dollars and easily live a balanced and joyful life, having more than enough time for my family and my recreation and my spiritual connection to my source. I love my life. Every day, writing it down, reading it out loud. And what will happen is going to seem miraculous. What a lot of my workshop attendees are telling me, months and years after using this practice on a daily basis, is that what I told them originally is true, and that is that seeming miracles become typical occurrences in their lives. Miracles just become typicals. Mm-hmm. And so if that person wants to be able to live a balanced life where they are using their skills and talents for work and getting paid well for it, and being able to have enough time for their family and their spiritual life, they have to write that down first. They have to define it. What does that look like? And then start being grateful for it in advance.
Do people typically, with this framework, get a notebook and basically rewrite the same thing every day for 30 days?
Yeah, so you use a daily journal. So you can certainly use a notebook. I wait for stuff to be on sale at Home Depot or Office Depot and buy 10 for $1. But every day you're going to write a new letter. Every day you're going to write a new letter. You'll have the same goals. But something interesting happens, and that is that as you're doing the imaging part, what you'll start to notice is that what you see as your completed goal might differ from what you wrote down earlier that day. The next day, write down what you saw, because that is more emotionally real to you. For instance, we had some people that were camping under a overpass, and unfortunately they were homeless and they were using a lot of drugs. And at first I just wanted them gone because they were breaking into homes and cars and stealing things. But as I was using the imaging process, what I realized was what I wanted was for them to have the same life that I have. So my goal statements changed. And they changed to something like, I'm so grateful that all people that live in and pass through my neighborhood are living healthy, happy, and safe lives with all of their needs met in lawful ways. All of us, our families, our friends, our pets, and our properties are protected and safe at all times. And we operate in respect and harmony with each other each and every moment of each and every day. We have a peaceful life. And sure enough, many people were able to get together and help move these people to a place that had lots of facilities, lots of support, food, showers, bathrooms, and shelter. and they were living a safe life. But that innovation to do that came from writing out what the real goal was. And imaging will help with that.
I love it. I love it. I don't actually have a copy of the book in studio here. What the title of the book is? The Path to Wealth. Boom, there it is. Great. And it is available now. Came out, what, last year?
It came out last year, and it's available on all online retailers, both in print and Audible.
Great.
Kindle, you name it.
Great.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, and you're living proof, and you got thousands of people who've been doing this. So it seems like a insanity to not try something that has worked for so many people that can help someone's life so much. So. Well,
and recognize how your brain works as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's people give up a lot of times too early on their goals because they have that strong belief that sabotages them and essentially puts that intuitive and subconscious messaging on mute. A friend of mine that's a scientist, she wanted to be a singer. She wanted to get paid to sing. And while she was a kid, she was told over and over and over by her parents that she couldn't make a living being a singer, that it was a foolish idea for her to do that, and that what she needed to do was have a sensible job and a sensible career. And so she went off and became a scientist, and she loves being a scientist. So after my workshop, she decided she wanted to be a paid singer. And after 2 months of using this practice, she said, "Ma'am, I'm going to give up on it. I'm not getting any intuitive hits, no leads, no messaging. This must not be the goal for me." And what I explained to her was she had this strong belief that was tied to what she was told when she was a kid. And she needed to keep up with the practice and go find other singers that are getting paid to do what she wants to do and make it familiar to her. She did that. So after about 6 months, she finds herself at this event, and this guy comes walking up to her from across a crowded room, puts out his hand, says, "Hello, my name is so-and-so," and they strike up a conversation. During the conversation, he mentions that he had volunteered to help put on a community event at the community center, and he has a budget for entertainment. Well, her gut is yelling at her, "Tell him you're a singer, tell him you're a singer," and she did. And she got to audition, and she got her first paying part. So don't give up. Don't give up. Keep using repetition in this practice. And what will happen is it will create a stronger belief so that you can notice possibilities to achieve your goals.
Love it. Well, and that's really it, right? Is if you look at the metaphor of farming or gardening, most people will plant a seed, water it, come back the next day, dig up the dirt, check and see if anything's grown, and within a week or so are completely discouraged because there's no groceries, there's no bounty yet, and so certain things just take a while, right? And so the fertile field of the psyche needs a little time to really plant the seeds and grow with these things.
Yeah, and I describe a lot of those kinds of potential blocks in my book and how to unlock your good.
Love it. Love it. So The Path to Wealth, May McCarthy. May, thank you so much. I really enjoy your energy. I enjoy everything you've said. This has been great. And what a great backdrop behind you. You got a nice view in your office. Home office?
Well, yeah. But don't tell anybody it's sunny in Seattle.
No.
We tell everybody it rains here.
Yeah, don't move here. Excellent. Thank you so much. Let me know what you think. This is Dr. Pedram Shojai, the Urban Monk. TheUrbanMonk.com. Check out some of the free resources we have, and I will see you next time.